Welcome, bienvenue, g'day, ni hao, hola. Wherever you are joining us from today, we want to say a huge welcome to our global community. We hope you are enjoying Product Marketing Rendezvous. And a special thank you to all our speakers and participants who together form our spectacular international lineup. Their sessions are bursting with insights to help the product marketing community level up. And remember, have your questions at the ready because the speakers will be answering your questions and offering tailored support after their presentations. Leave your question in the comments below and get awesome advice from an expert in the field. What's not to love about that? So now let's resume the rendezvous.
Okay, cool. So shall we get started? I'll just start with a quick introduction and then we'll go right into the first question. Hi everyone, welcome to the PMA's Product Marketing Rendezvous on Customer Retention and Getting Creative with Loyalty Initiatives. To get started, let's do a round of introductions. Maybe you can just mention who you are, where you're based, what your role is, and what company you work for. Melissa, shall we get started with you?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa, and I'm based in Singapore, and I'm from Singapore. I'm currently working in Lazada Group, which is Southeast Asia's one of the largest e-commerce platform. We are obviously a consumer-facing product and business. And what I do in Lazada is that I actually handle the consumer engagement tools. So this means all our different mechanics that we use to drive revisit and retention within our platform. Nice to see everyone.
Cool, thank you so much. Maria, do you want to go next?
Of course. Good morning to everybody. My name is Maria Liuzzo. I am based in London, but I'm Italian. I work for Veeam Software. Veeam is the leader of cloud data protection and provides backup and retention products for all kind of data and systems. In my role, I have a global product marketing role, specifically assigned to the SMB business and the customer expansion or retention programs. So I'm very happy to be here and to share some of the experience that I've gained so far or that I'm working on with my current company.
Thank you. Cesare?
Hey, hello everybody. This is Cesare Gritti. I'm also like Maria from Italy, but I'm currently based in Singapore. I've been here for a couple of years. Before that, I was for some time in the US and back in Europe. And I'm currently working for HP Inc. I'm the Director of Strategy and Future Product Marketing. So in all this year here in Singapore, in the US and Italy, I cover different roles in marketing. And for my business, for HP, we have both enterprise and consumer. I'm more focused on the consumer side. So therefore, we have a lot of focus on retention and loyalty program in order to keep our customers. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here and be part of this conversation.
Cool. I'm Bozena, and I'm based in Barcelona, and I'm the Director of Marketing at Maze, a rapid testing platform that enables product and marketing teams to test anything from prototypes, concepts, to content and copy. It's also a very interesting tool for product marketing managers. All right, so shall we get started with the first question? So we all know that it costs a lot less to sell to existing customers than acquire new ones. So that's why brands invest a lot into loyalty programs. So what I'd love to know is, why is retention and loyalty important for your brand? Cesare, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, sure. As I mentioned before, the part that I'm responsible for is more on the consumer side. So we interact directly with customers. And I think that for all the company, like you said, it's important to retain your customer. It's much easier to retain the customer than finding new customer. And also for our business, it's not just one transaction and we are done, correct? The relationship with the customer keeps going, correct? Because we have the supplies, we have other stuff that they need for our products. So therefore, it's extremely important that we create a good, I would say, relationship, if you want, with our partners, with our customers. And the direction that we are going when we talk about loyalty is not the typical or the traditional, the more you buy, the less you pay, correct? We want to go beyond that because we want to deliver a kind of an experience with our products and with our solution that makes them where can we deliver more value to our customer during the life of our partnership. So therefore, that having this kind of program in place is very critical. And also the other aspect that is important, the more we know our customers, the better product and solution we can do, correct? So then it's a kind of bi-directional kind of thing. They can get more if they stay with us because they have better experience and everything. On the other hand, we learn more from them, so we can continue to improve what we offer to them. So this is in summary why I think all the loyalty and all the retention is very important.
Maria, what about you? Why are loyalty programs or retention programs important for your brand?
I have to echo what Cesare said. At Veeam, we are very strong on creating customer values. So whatever we do, even in our expansion or retention program, is always about how we can support the customer in maximizing the investment they've done with us and grow with them in their business objectives. So the retention program in itself is again a two-way road. One is providing the customer who start with us with additional support, additional products that can improve their own business objective and transition from an analog to a digital trajectory, while at the same time for Veeam it becomes a way to get from the customers input so that we can improve our products and can increase and can improve through specific roadmaps. So it's a way of creating value for the customer, but at the same time enhance our offerings to the customer base, and with the objective, of course, to attract new customers because of the richness of the value that we are able to create for the existing ones.
Yeah, and I think so it's my turn. I think for us, because my business, it's all about our customers are very fleeting, right? Because we're all about the bottom line. How much is a bag or a shirt? You know, it's not so much about the thousands of dollars that you would have invested in Maria's products, you know, and all. So our customers are very picky and very finicky. They can change their mind very easily, and they are constantly actually scouring the entire marketplace for the cheapest possible product that they can find online and through the various apps. So in the competitive landscape, that's where, you know, it's really important for us to actually drive users. And when we talk about retention in the e-commerce business, we look at firstly at obviously the DAU, so revisits into the app. We also have data to show that users that actually have a higher revisit rate have a higher repurchase rate and a higher average order value as well. So it's not just about drawing the users into our app, it's also then seeing the actual purchase funnel of this user coming in, driving more awareness with this user, and then driving this user down into a conversion. So that's where retention, it's really important for us. And I like something that one of my bosses used to say: if they're spending more time with your app, they're spending less time with the competitor. So that's always one very good like rule to live by. I mean, with the little amount of time that all of us have, as busy parents, and all the work that we have to do at home, like we really have very limited time. And so that's where I think like loyalty and retention really plays a big part, because as what Bozena says, it costs so much less, to really drive someone who is already a loyal customer in your app as compared to acquiring a new customer. So it's really important, through all parts of the business, not just in terms of loyalty program, but in terms of the entire platform experience and user experience, to actually allow people to want to love your app. And I think like inherently people want to, especially if they came to your app for the first time, they are interested in your app. But then it's about what Maria says: you have to drive value and deliver value to them. That's one. And two, and really ensuring a really smooth and good customer experience for these users, to ensure that they want to actually come back to your app.
And if I can add a comment here, I live, as I said, I live in Singapore, and Lazada is big in Singapore. So my wife and my family, we all spend a lot of time on your app. That's a success story for you. Another comment that I wanted to make is that I didn't mention before. Retention is also important because it gives you more stability, or more, you can project more what is going to be your the result of your business. So it makes also your business more solid and looks better with the analyst, correct? It's not based on, oh, I might do this or might do that. You can show, hey, I have 80% retention, and on average these customers spend X dollars. So then you can really have more easier to predict your financials and your results in the incoming year.
And of course, financially, of course, we need to look at the benefits. So from the customer value, as Cesare is saying, we drive also the P&L and the profit and loss. In fact, from one side, we need to look at the revenue streams that this the loyalty programs actually take into the business, but also the cost of acquisition. There are some research that says, some researchers that say that it costs between 5 and 25 times more to acquire a new customer than to nurture an existing customer. So there are dynamics in all aspects of the business plan, if you will. So it's really creating customer value, but at the same time do it profitably as well.
I think it's interesting that you brought up the growth element, because Maze is a B2B SaaS platform. So we're based on a subscription model. So in that world, churn is the silent killer. So for us really to be able to grow or have a profitable trajectory, we have to really tackle retention and churn. Otherwise, there is no successful subscription business.
I remember one time when I was in a previous business, you need to think of your customer base like a calendar. You can put anything in, but then if you have the holes and everything goes out, so that's where you need to make sure that you avoid the leaks, which is the customer retention. It's another way, an analogy to think of how important retention is.
Yeah, I think what's also really interesting about this conversation is that we're all working in different industries. So I would love to, we all agree that retention is very important, but I would love to talk a bit more about what do these loyalty programs look like in our different industries? Melissa, maybe we could start with you.
Yeah, so I directly look after one of our loyalty programs. We have a number that's in Lazada, and I think the one that I look at is actually our coins business, our coins and games, and these are two different domains, but kind of working in different ways. So obviously, maybe I'll talk about games first, because like many companies actually do use gamification to actually drive retention, because it's a way of masking a mechanic of like like driving people to come back to the app in kind of like an unusual way, right? Because like you wouldn't expect that people would come to an e-commerce app to play games, but it's surprising that actually people do. So like, you know, sometimes people are just randomly shopping and then they chance upon our games and then they play it, and then we tie our proposition or the value proposition of our games with the app, meaning that you are actually earning points so that you can actually get some benefits when you're shopping, whether it's in terms of a discount voucher or you can actually get a free product out of it. So, you know, in that sense, you know, we actually look at games as kind of like an entertaining way. So we coined this term called shoppertainment, which is shopping in an entertaining format. And that's how we mask the entire, I guess, the experience of retention within Lazada. Is that, you know, people are unwittingly actually spending more time in your app. We actually have users who play our games like up to 3 hours. And that might not be the same as how much you would spend maybe shopping for, you know, a bag or a book. But like, you know, in that way, we're actually driving more mind share as well as the actual time spent within the app. And obviously then in that time spent in the app, they're discovering other things that we are guiding them. So again, within the gamification sphere, we're actually, you know, designing all sorts of little micro mechanics that actually helps the users to be able to discover other parts of the app. So for example, a game that we design actually requires you to go to a particular campaign page that we are actually promoting of that week. And to do that, like, you would have earned a certain amount of points that moves you up to the next level in the game. So it's really interesting. Like, even before I joined this, I was really skeptical. Like, would people actually play games, you know, to want to spend more time in your app? Why don't they go to a gaming app? But there are a lot of people who are, I guess, like gamers, you know. They are not like, you know, your Call of Duty or, you know, like Wizards of the Coast kind of players. They're not so I guess like a hardcore gamer, and they just want to play for fun. And that's where you see games like Candy Crush and all that actually really, you know, like breaking through in terms of all these like a very deep penetration in terms of the masses. So that's the kind of games that we use. You know, it's lightweight games that allows people to you know, enter very easily into the game and yet spend more time. And then the second thing that I do, which is coins, is kind of like a loyalty points program. So by, again, like, you know, having these micro mechanics, we direct users to do various things within the app. And then eventually they earn these points. And with these coins, they can then go into our reward store that allows you to exchange for certain vouchers. It could be a platform funded voucher. It could be a seller funded voucher. And then we do like various kinds of also, because we are e-commerce, we can get these sellers, you know, to then submit some like free gifts or highly discounted gifts that you can use your coins to actually exchange for as well. So that's where I think like the coins business for us, it's also an evolving business. So like when we first started out, it's been a pure like loyalty program, like how many, like the KrisFlyer or United Airlines miles, you know, how they work. You just keep accumulating until you can exchange for something. But I think like more and more, we're trying to see that many of our users, like I said, our business is really fast paced, because like, you know, the user would like within seconds could switch to the competitor simply because it's 10 cents cheaper, you know, with our competitor. So that's where we actually also offer very immediate gratification for our users. So they can use coins to immediately get like even a 20-cent discount, you know, on the product that they could shop on. So that's where we really need to see where users who are a lot more impatient. And I think like in the consumer business, consumers they have really short attention span. So we really have to milk on this and, you know, really catch their attention to see what's the immediate benefits of some of these loyalty programs that we're driving. And yet at the same time provide sufficient value for them to really create that ecosystem. So I think like all loyalty programs, especially when you have things like, you know, points and rewards, you want to drive an ecosystem. You want them to earn the points by doing things that you are trying to drive certain healthy actions within the app. And then after that, reward them with whatever they can do with it, and then make sure that those rewards are worth their time. So I think like that's in a nutshell what we do in Lazada.
I think that's super interesting. And I think in e-commerce, you have so many opportunities to come up with creative loyalty programs. And I really think it's interesting that you're actually building gamification into your loyalty strategy. Maybe Maria, maybe you can talk a bit about what you do to work on retention, because your industry is very different to, for instance, e-commerce or Lazada.
Yeah, it is slightly different, and it all comes down to understanding the customer and the customer need. So it's becoming intimate, really, with the customer solution that they have, and work with them on how to be. It's like a building block, you know. You start with the first step, and then while the customer becomes acquainted with the solution, the initial solution, how can they add more to continue benefiting from the good results that they've had from the initial implementation. So from a technical world where it's not fast moving like an e-commerce, it's really important to understand the customer, where they operate, and how the solution fits within that environment, that can demonstrate to the customer what the return on their investment is going to be. And we use different things to highlight those. Apart from the traditional case studies, we have also a very, very, very active and loyal customer base who are willing to help us to provide feedback for Veeam on the, for example, third-party review platforms, where for us it's a wealth of information that users actually find, even new customers or prospects can find easily, and is unbiased, and they can get from the mouth of the actual customer what the value that Veeam has created for them. Or we have another way that we use that is quite successful in Veeam are communities. We have technical communities, user community, user groups, and it's very active in the way they interact with us and among them, and that creates a viral spiral, if you will, and to spread the value that Veeam creates for their business. So although we don't have loyalty programs like point-based and discounts, after all, is really what I said at the beginning, is creating that sense of purpose and highlight how different Veeam products are compared to others by using our loyal customer base as well.
Yeah, I would say
And
it's
intimacy and knowing intimately what the customers do.
Yeah, I would say that at Maze, it's actually very similar. We don't have dedicated loyalty programs, but for us to retain our users, we really focus on building a great product experience. And our key, I guess, retention initiative is really driving product engagement. So for us, it's about identifying the target audience, like you said, really understanding why do they come to the platform, making sure that, you know, we activate them, that they get the most out of the platform. And it really kind of goes hand in hand with educating users on what they can do with Maze, how they can be successful in achieving their job. So that for us as a SaaS platform is kind of how we are, addressing retention and churn. And I think one of the other things that we're really focusing on is collaboration. So we've seen that the more people collaborate in our platform, the more team members they bring on board, the more likely they are to retain, because there's a bigger investment, obviously, in setting this up for the organization. So that's actually one of the key initiatives that we're working on to retain our users. So it's not a loyalty program per se, but this is kind of how we're addressing retention. Cesare, what about you? What are some of the initiatives that you're running?
Yeah, for me, as I said, I come from HP. It's more kind of, my focus is more on the hardware space. And so a little bit different, but like I said before, retention, loyalty plays a key role. And as you know, what we do, we have the traditional loyalty programs, because the more you buy, the more you get to discounts. But where we have a tremendous success is try to move from a transactional relationship with your customer with a subscription relationship, correct? And we have a program called Instant Ink, which basically you don't need to go and buy supplies, correct? You have a subscription, you pay a certain amount per month, and we send to you, we ship to you the cartridge, correct? So that's and if you sign up for these kind of things, so of course you create a relationship with us. You have better pricing. You never run out of your supplies. You always have what you need. And in addition, we continue to stay in contact with these customers, and we can continue to provide solutions, right? Like different way to print from the mobile devices. And this, like I said, has been very, very successful in all the markets where we introduce it. Now we are even going an extra step, and that is where we see the big opportunity moving forward, which is also adding even more value to our customer. One area where we are looking at is, of course, one is on the support side, on the warranty, right? The more if you sign up, you get better warranty for your product. The other one is a lot in the sustainability space. So if you are in this program, you don't need to be concerned about recycling cartridges, because we take care of that. So therefore, we take away this concern of, you know, the environment. And also we have programmed, and if you sign up for this initiative, for each of these customers, we plant a new tree in a forest, correct? We define the part of the world, okay? The other thing that we are doing is, and then we use this money to continue to improve the plastic, and we have programs to collect the plastic in the ocean and use that plastic to create cartridges. And this sustainability, environmental kind of reward that we give to customer and to ourselves is resonating very well with our customers. So this is another way to create a retention based on common values, correct? We see value in doing this, and we can do this together. And also, like I said before, this is a great opportunity for us to continue to improve the solution, the products that we offer, because we are in continuous contact with them. So we are not at the level that, you know, might be with the e-commerce, but clearly we are investing a lot in establishing this kind of relationship with our customers.
I think that's really interesting what Cesare you shared, because like I think using retention in more of like also like in a branding kind of way. So like what Cesare said about building a value or a value system that then your buyers are actually invested in as well, and see as a value proposition that stands apart, you know, from the competitors. And I think like it's interesting, because I always believe that retention cannot be done through one particular aspect, you know, whether like what Maria and Bozena said, that, you know, it's also, there's a lot of soft selling, you know, whether, you know, it's through communities and things like that, a lot more different marketing channels to build that. But also then, as what Cesare said, that like, you know, there is that kind of branding aspect that can build retention if your buyer is or your audience is aligned with a certain value system that you're trying to build.
That's correct. And one thing that we also need to consider is also support. If there is an issue, how quickly and how easily customers can get through it and then can have their issue resolved in a timely manner. So the support structure for customers is also critical, and is also critical for the retention programs. Because one of the, in most industries, even in a SaaS or subscription or hardware, customers value, or not just the product, but how the product is supported. So this is also critical, I think, from a retention perspective. It may not be creative, but although it can become creative, but it's another pillar of the retention strategy.
No, absolutely. We see that very clear in our business, correct? The support is kind of driving the customer to decide one brand versus another. Right? Because when you buy something, when it works, life is good. And when it starts having problem, you want to have an answer right away, correct? And so therefore, support is definitely a key element that can play a key role in terms of retention and how you can improve your retention rate.
Indeed.
So we've mentioned a few different things, from gamification to loyalty or brand-based programs around sustainability or building communities. I'm curious to know a bit more about how does that look when we scale across different geographies? So we all serve customers in different regions. How do you scale a program? Do you need different programs for different markets or different demographics, or can you roll them out across different geographies? I'd love to hear a bit about that.
From my experience, since we covered worldwide, we never go across the board at the same time, because it's never working because there are geographical or cultural preferences to get rewarded in a certain way. There is generational kind of aspect that comes into place. So what we go to we pilot in a specific country or in a region, and then we learn from there. Then another point that we also do what other things are going on in the market. And for example, for me, that I'm focused on the hardware, I don't look only at the hardware. I look at Lazada. I look at these other business in different areas and see how they do loyalty there. How do they retain customers? And then how can that apply to my business, which is not the way that it works in the US, but in China is different than in the US. And then when you develop kind of the value intent that you want to deliver to the customer, you need really to understand what value means in China versus India, correct? Or versus the US. So therefore, we spend a good amount of time when we do our programs, and again, to define what to do by geography. And the best way is usually go, try, and learn, right? And that is the kind of the approach that we are using.
We call in Veeam, we call it global. So you may have a global program, which then needs to be localized. And in the localization, what is key to understand is, as Cesare said, what does value mean in most of the geographies or in some geographies, and then articulate it in a way that can resonate to that specific geography. But what is also critical is the legality, because what is legal in the United States may not be legal in Italy, for example. I don't know if you run any special offer with points. Sometimes I know we have had some cases where we cannot give giveaway in certain regions. So even though the program can be globalized, there are specific elements that need to be double checked with legal. So that's something of the input into the implementation. Say, okay, if we have a global message, a global value, how can we actually make it work in either America, APJ or EMEA, or even at country level, because that's important to take into account. And sometimes a country can say, no, we can't do this in our country. So how do we adapt to those specific circumstances? So to your point, it's in the implementation phase, Bozena, is really having a good set of reference points in different regions who can bring to the table the voices of regional requirements. And then your program becomes global.
Yeah, for us, localization is key, and it's really down to the specific countries that we actually manage. So Lazada's in 6 countries in Southeast Asia, and every country really has its own nuances and how they really want to drive their loyalty program, because obviously what's considered valuable in one country could be so different in another. I mean, just a recent example, in Singapore, we ran like a bubble tea, promotion, and like it's $1. You can use 100 coins to go and redeem for it. It's snapped up in like 5 seconds, and it's things like that like, I mean, if we ran this in Spain, maybe it would not be as popular, but like, certain things are really what our local operations know really resonates with their local audience and really can drive hype with that. And I think like in terms of demographics, like with us, we have like 15 different customer segments when we look at, both non-buyer and buyer. So like, there's so much differentiation and segmentation that you can do with your audience. You know, everything down to from the regular demographics like gender and age and the race and all, to even like how they behave within the app. So like, you know, we segment in terms of the number of days that they spent within the app, to like their purchase value, to the number of times they purchase, to the categories that they purchase. So there's just so many ways that you can slice and dice. And I think like what I said, I feel that there's never one loyalty program that really, you know, it's a one cookie cutter that you can apply to each of these demographics. You really have to have a variety, you know, for each of these segments to see what really is useful for them. Because like, for example, the main people who are playing games with us are the people who are between 18 to 40, but like those above 40 could be looking for, let's say they want to buy a voucher pack, you know, because that's where, you know, they see a real value in terms of actually getting a full discount, you know, of you know, diapers or something that they're buying on a regular basis. So I think like, you know, really knowing that you cannot apply one product or rather one loyalty product across all your different segments is really important. And it's same with Cesare. We just try it. Sometimes you can't think too much as well. We just do it, see what kind of people take up to it, and then we tweak from there.
So one element that we see in our case, since we sell products, what is not just the product the customer buy that might be different between the generation or the country, is also the way that they use the device. Okay, especially now that they go and they use a lot of printing happen to mobile devices, the application that they use there, correct, and the kind of different activity that they do from the device. Even if it's like a printer, they can do a bunch of different things, and so therefore understand what is important for them and use that as a hook, to create a better experience for them, so they can retain and appreciate more our brands versus something else. So it's very, all the segmentation, there are a different flavor that you can look at your customers. And of course, from our perspective though, at the end of the day, we cannot go 5,000 different products that we need to consolidate. But for example, the solution on tap, the loyalty program, the retention program, they can be different based on geography and customer.
And kind of thinking ahead, so what are some of the projects that you're excited about for 2021? Do you have anything exciting planned, or are there maybe any challenges that you're planning to face this year?
But to me, I can go first. Okay, so there are a couple of things. I mentioned before the kind of our subscription model. So now we are expanding that, and we call it the HP Plus, where we are adding more value to our customers. So that is a big strategic initiative for us. So that is going to happen it's already started, it's going to happen this year. And the other thing is also going back to the point before, how can we, because usually we start from the, let's call developed market or Western Europe and the US, and then how can we expand more in all the other geographies? So that's a big one. And again, the key point for us is try to create this, it's not just a retention, you know, it's also an emotional connection with these customers, right? That makes, that reinforce the way that we work together. And again, so we really think that this year with this HP Plus program, we are moving to a next level of what we offer to our customer and the retention program. And so that's very important for our strategy. So very exciting, and of course, big expectation.
I think for me, it's what I just mentioned about that. The biggest project we'll be doing is looking at audience segmentation when we do these loyalty programs, and really driving, you know, specific mechanics for specific segments. And also, I think, like, you know, because in our business, it's so fast. Like, you know, we are rolling out products, you know, new mechanics are rolled out every 2 months kind of thing. So many a time, like in the tech industry, like we spend a lot more time, like, you know, actually developing new products than actually reviewing and doing an audit and cleanup of, like, you know, are certain mechanics being too duplicated in terms of serving a same audience. So I think like that's what we are currently also doing as well in the new year, where we are reviewing the whole slate of like different kinds of customer retention mechanics and see which ones are more efficient and optimized towards that. Because you know, in the tech world, we have like, you know, 20 different products that's running at the same time, and sometimes not all of them are talking to one another. And so, like, you know, you sometimes have a situation where there's another product kind of like doing the same thing, just in a slightly different way. And then, you know, we have to actually, and all these are internal products. So, and we have to actually go and see how can we, you know, really make it more efficient and not have too many things that are confusing the customer and kind of fighting for their attention internally and cannibalizing each other.
Mm. From our side, one thing that I'm really excited about this year, we are starting to create initiative using our in-product messaging. So we have started with two products, and we will continue this year to enhance that capability, because at the end, that's where your customer is when they use the product. So that's where you need to start engaging with them in the product usage. So this is something that is going to be enhanced this year and in the next years as well. And one thing that is always in my mind, but it's not even started, but it's an idea, is to start thinking of an app for these products. Because again, because of demographics, people are using information products in different ways. Say, how can we attract with the other options different demographics to use our products? So an app may be a good idea to, on your example, Melissa, you know, how can we get closer using newest technology? But then as a first step is more in product engagement, and then who knows, perhaps an app. I wish.
Yeah, so you mentioned in product engagement, and for us, something that we're really focusing on this year, and this is something I mentioned earlier, is collaboration. So it's something that we're really excited about. I think it's something that is super important in the SaaS world and is becoming more and more important, which you can see based on the success of like Notion, Slack, and Miro. So it's something that we're really excited about, and yeah, and I think it's kind of in line with a trend that's in the SaaS space as well. Yeah, so maybe to wrap up, we can just share how attendees can get in touch with us, or how they can learn more about retention or what you're doing with loyalty programs.
Yeah, the best way for me is to connect with me via LinkedIn. I think that they have my name, correct messages, or they can look at what I'm doing, and or if there are any questions, more than happy to provide my input.
Yeah,
same for me. Oh, sorry,
yeah.
sorry, Melissa, you go.
Sorry about that. Yeah, same thing for me. Like it's all about in LinkedIn, and also I really like always getting ideas from other people and how they are actually creating new innovative ways, you know, in driving retention. Like I said, you know, I think like there's just so many different aspects, from an actual product to marketing, to you know, like community marketing and brand marketing, that you can actually drive retention. So it's not a one size fits all kind of solution, and always happy to have a discussion.
On my side as well, the LinkedIn is the best way, also because it always comes with us wherever we go. So that's the best communication point. And I'm always happy to engage with people, share ideas, improvements. It's from a diverse way of thinking that we can actually progress. So I welcome anyone who would like to contact me to explore more. Thank you.
Okay, so it seems like LinkedIn is the place to go for all of us. Thank you so much for being part of this panel. Thank you for sharing your insights and your experience. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you
Happy-
all. Thank you all
happy-
for attending.
Whether you're sinking your teeth into a PMA event for the first time or have come back for a second bite of the cherry, welcome to Product Marketing Rendezvous. Before we set the ball rolling, we want to say a huge thank you to our speakers, you and everyone who is joining this event from around the world. We are sure you'll enjoy the sessions from our one-of-a-kind international lineup. With expert presentations, specialist talks and deep dive panel sessions on the agenda, suffice it to say, you're in for a treat. And here is some more good news. The insights don't stop here, not by a long shot. Our Slack community is home to dynamic conversations and contributions from thousands upon thousands of fellow product marketers. So if you're not already a member, come and join us today. It won't cost you a penny. If you have questions for the speakers or want to connect with them further, then please ask away in the comments section of the video or catch up with them on the PMA Slack community. But for now, sit back and join the rendezvous.
Hello everybody and welcome to this fireside chat. I am joined by the brilliant Yasmine Helmy. Hopefully I pronounced that right, Yasmine Helmy. Yasmine is a product marketing consultant and she has previously worked as a growth marketer doing lots of product marketing activities at Instabug. Today we're going to be talking about how Yasmine leveraged product marketing as a growth marketer. I think this is a really interesting topic because I know those two disciplines overlap considerably and there's a lot both disciplines can learn from each other. So I'm really excited to hear Yasmine's point of view here. And we're going to specifically talk about how this leverage of two roles was crucial in growing Instabug, specifically during product launches, something that I think, Yasmine, you helped a lot with. So lots we're going to cover today, lots we're going to go into. Just to introduce myself, I'm Phill Agnew. I'm Senior Product Marketer at Hotjar, and I also host a podcast called Nudge, which is a consumer psychology podcast focused on helping product marketers grow and improve their business. Okay, Yasmine, welcome.
Welcome, Phill. Welcome, everyone. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully, we'll talk about everything marketing/growth in this talk. So excited about this one.
Absolutely. Okay, Yasmine, let's kick off with the core topic that we're here to discuss today, which is product marketing and growth marketing. You've sort of leveraged both throughout your career. How do you think these two roles overlap and help one another?
Cool. So let me tell you my story very quickly. When I started off as a growth/product marketeer, it was 6 years ago, and I was just joining an upcoming SaaS startup, which is Instabug. And while Instabug was just starting out, the premise of Instabug, or the thing that they were trying to do, is to help mobile teams to basically any mobile team that is building an application to make sure that they are streamlining the user feedback. It's so tedious. When you launch applications, you find a lot of bugs and critical crashes that affect the user experience. So they wanted to tackle the experience and the performance part. And it was just the stage that Instabug was at when I joined. It was pre-product market fit. We were just building the first MVP. We were trying to crack down who's the best persona. So when I joined in, it wasn't just a product marketing role. It was more of, we have an MVP. We're just starting out in the product development cycle. We're trying to figure out what would be the best persona to go after, what products to build for them, and also how to go to market. So initially, it wasn't like 6 years back. It wasn't, hey, we need a product marketeer who could do 1, 2, 3. It was more of getting someone who has some product/marketing knowledge to help them kick it off. And that's how initially I was called a growth marketeer, and before then my title was super. Yeah, I don't want to share it, but I will. I was called a social media marketing and marketing wizard. So I was a wizard. And then as we went by, we figured out that what I was actually doing and my core mandate affected product marketing a lot. And that's how I came to understand what the product marketing role is and how it could be leveraged to actually accelerate growth, and also make sure that the entire company is aligned on a specific plan or messaging that would help you gather more feedback and build the better products for the persona that you're focusing on. And yeah, we'll dive into that obviously in the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, let's just start with your career, because so am I right in thinking you had 6 years at Instabug and you started in a sort of social media role? How did you end up moving into product marketing and growth marketing? Because it's an interesting career path that I know lots of people are keen on following.
Cool, awesome. So when I joined, it was just the team was product led, because we were building a SaaS product, and it was most of the team was into engineering, tech, and design, and there wasn't anyone on the business side, given that the co-founders were coming from a software background. So they knew that they wanted to build something that would solve a pain point to a specific niche market, which I mentioned, the mobile teams, the development teams, and the design teams. So when I joined in, the understanding of the founding team was that they already have the product in place and they just need someone to kick it off the ground, figure out the channels to get the word out there, do awareness, acquisition, and the entire funnel from awareness up until revenue and retention. So they didn't really, as we went by and we unlocked what is needed in terms of, okay, so we have the MVP, who are we going to go after? The total addressable market is everyone who's building an app, but we're not going to go for everyone, because one of the core things or pillars about product marketing is to actually launch a plan for a product at the right time for the right people, so that they would actually use it instead of trying to build everything at the same time and missing on the key differentiators. So when I started with social media, as you mentioned, I took a very few steps back to understand, okay, so if I'm going to do a social media strategy, or let's say another channel, content or ads or partnerships or whatever it may be, who am I going to go and talk to in these channels? Because channels are endless and you could go do social media for any product out there, but then the strategy is what matters. So the step back that we took there was the strategy, trying to figure out the personas, and not just the personas by saying, hey, we're going after this total addressable market, but inside the bigger umbrella of the market, what are the product features or the pain points that we're solving, which takes me to my second point, which is on the product side, you need to talk to the product team and do a lot of user interviews, not just focusing about the usability of the product or if the product needs more features or whatnot. You need to focus on a holistic overview of the persona itself to see whether if social media makes sense, and if I'm going to go for social media, what type of messages will I produce, and what are the CTAs, the call to actions, and all that. So as we took the step back of figuring out the persona and trying to figure out the key problems that our product is solving, it took us to another question, which was, why would people use our product, and what is the key differentiator? And then how to reach the customer, the target customer, which is, when we started out, it was, let's do social media, which is the fourth question I just mentioned now. So we understood that we were thinking of it the wrong way, and we need to start with the who, the what, the why, and then where, which would be the social media or the channel, whatever it may be. And then when is the right time, and what type of messages do we like send to them? Maybe I got into this like very like, maybe you can go into this more in depth, but yeah, as we started out, the core premise of a product marketeer is three things: is to actually know and align where the product is headed and for who. Second thing is to see have the third thing is to actually build a go-to-market strategy to deliver the right, like the type of personas that you're going after. The messaging would come really easily into, or fit in the puzzle very easily.
Yasmine, I just missed when you're going through the 3 points, you cut out slightly. So maybe you could just do and you're cutting out a bit now. I don't know if you can hear me okay. You all good now? You can hear me okay? Your internet's okay?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
If you could just do the 3 points of product marketing again, because you got through the first
I'm sorry,
one.
I don't know why is it. Okay, let's do that. So basically, the three premises, or how I think of product marketing, it goes into three folds. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but your video is gone now. Hold on,
sorry,
this looks better.
I don't know, it was working well all day and decided to do this now, so I apologize.
Let's hope it's just teething problems with the meeting, but it seems to be okay. Maybe it's cutting in and out a bit. Yeah.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I changed my connection. Hopefully it works better now.
Okay. If you do those, if you just go through those 3 points, I think they could cut that and it would look pretty good.
Cool. So yeah, before like deciding which channel to go after, we took very few steps back, and these steps were divided into three. The first one was to actually do some market validation, go interview customers, see a holistic overview of what are their needs, their pain points, where do they hang out online, what are the alternatives that they use, and all that, everything that relates to the customers or the prospective ones if you're just starting out. Second thing is, after you mix and match between the type of personas that you want to prioritize and the product roadmap, you focus on framing the message and try to double down or dial on the benefits or the key propositions that you want people to look for, and then maybe try to skip some of the things that aren't really important depending on where you want to get people in the funnel. And the third thing or component is to actually build a strategy, which is typically a launch plan or maybe a growth marketing plan to see whether you're going to do, let's say, a pre-launch activities and then post-launch activities, and also try to figure out what type of messages works for each channel. So the website messaging might be a bit different than, let's say, someone who already signed up and is you're trying to move them to the retention part or maybe the activation part. So market validation, framing the message, and then the GTM strategy are the three things that we decided to focus on and start with, as opposed to deciding which channels like social media or else to focus on.
Got it. And that's, I think, a really important point, to start with your personas, start with understanding your consumers before you start thinking through tactics and channels. I guess the question I would have is, you talked about user interviews as being a key part of how you can understand your personas. What questions would you ask in those user interviews? As a growth marketer, product marketer, what do you need to ask in order to understand your persona?
Great question. So for me, I feel like the product marketeer is the one who basically talks with everyone in the team that is focusing on one aspect of the puzzle. So for instance, before saying a couple of the questions that I would ask, I would go to talk with the product team and see what type of questions do they need to ask in the user interviews to unlock the type of features or usability issues that the prospective customer might have. Maybe another team like sales and business development, they are focused on what gets the deal faster, or what are the blockers, or what are the pain points that they have during the buyer journey cycle. And then maybe a third team would be focused on specific usability issues. So I try to uncover all the questions that any team would like to ask, and then as a product marketeer, I divide my questionnaire or maybe the interview into two folds. The first one is asking questions related to the persona itself, like who are you, what do you do in your day, what would get you to do your job in faster or better, how can we help, or what would you do in your job to get you promoted, or what are the things that actually take a lot of your time that would it would hinder you from doing your actual jobs. Just trying to understand. These are just like examples on top of my head. It's just questions to unlock if this person during their day or during their work, what would help them be better, regardless of how my product solves the problem to them. So it has to be very objective, and it has to be related to are they like individual contributors? Are they line managers? Do they use a lot of tools? Do they not? It depends on the industry of the customers that you're trying to go after. But really having the first part of the interview focused on them, just letting them doing most of the talking, you just like probing in, doing follow-up questions, making the 80-20 rule. You listen for 80% of the time and you ask for 20% of the other time. And then the second part of the interview could be very tactical to answer questions related to the other teams. So it's as if you're the one who is the gatekeeper for anyone in your company or startup, and you get all the questions and you try to formulate them in a way as if you're having a conversation with a friend. Try to make it smooth and seamless, and it's not just like, hey, I asked this question, I'm taking it off and I'm going on to the next question. It has to be more of a dialogue. Yeah, so basically that's what I have in mind. Like,
got it. Yeah, and it's you know, we could probably do a whole episode on interviewing, right? Because it's such an important part of the growth marketing, product marketing framework, which is often forgotten. A quick question I'd have for you: if a product marketer is listening to this thinking, oh, I really need to do this, how many interviews should they start with before they start creating their positioning and developing their personas? How many would you say is good practice to get under your belt before building these core bits of collateral?
I'd have to say, like, I don't want to go for the answer, it depends. I would love to say that if you have, it depends on the product development lifecycle, meaning that if you're pre-product market fit, you do not have enough traction, it doesn't make sense to go after 200 interviews because you don't have the customer base to do so. So it depends on trying to segment, as I mentioned in the first part of the product marketeer's role is to do market validation. Let's say the total addressable market consists of thousands of customers that you could go after, but then out of the total addressable market, you identified 3 to 4 different personas, meaning that the first segment are clustered because of things that makes them similar to each other or have the same similar pain points, and then you have the others focused on other things. You take sample for each and every one of these segments. I would say if you're just starting off, maybe if you can get 5 to 15 or maybe 10 to 20 interviews for each segment, it would give you like a sample analysis of what to expect if you go after a bigger segment. Definitely, as you go on and you have data from your customers, I would say before unlocking the first 1K customers, we used to do a mix of 3 things. The first one is to actually gather data without having to talk to them. So we did a lot of, let's say we go on Clearbit, we try to figure out all the details that are related to the people and also as the companies itself. We try to do some social stalking to see whether they are on specific groups or maybe they're following newsletters or podcasts that would give us insights about how they go on about their days. And the third, and another part is, and actually this is interesting because you work at Hotjar, we used to do a lot of heat maps and where we basically get a segment of the customers and we see how they interact on specific landing pages, which call to actions are they clicking on, which parts are they falling off. So we do a lot of qualitative and quantitative analysis without even having to speak to them. And we only pick the ones based on the attributes that we decide. So for instance, we would like to, sometimes we want to talk to people who aren't really active. And we define what is the active metric and what is the threshold. At other times, we want to talk to super active customers to see how they could be more of champions and do and be promoters for our company. So this was in the phase where we had hundreds of customers that we could segment into cohorts and do some analysis on. But I would say if you're just starting out, it just makes sense to segment, do a couple of like 10 or 20 interviews for each segment so that you'd have an understanding. And then obviously for product and growth in general, it's always experimentational. So you put some assumptions, you go to market, you try it out, and then you look at the data. And it's not just the last thing I'll mention here, because I could go on and on about this. Once you do interviews and you come up with assumptions, once you test it out, you don't just like drop it and go on and focus on other things. You have to take it as if it's the entire funnel is within the product marketing team, even if they're not owning it fully. And if they're passing it on to growth or they're passing it on to another team, they need to look at the data to gauge whether the assumptions that they had were actually correct or not. So yeah, I didn't like directly answer the question, but definitely having samples for each segments are key to just have some assumptions ready in place.
No, and please do go on and on. It's really insightful listening to you talk through this. So thank you. So we've done our user interviews. We start to understand our personas. We've built our product marketing plan. How then do you leverage these insights, this plan, to help improve your product launches? I know this is something you worked on at Instabug. How would you leverage all of this information?
Perfect. So at one point during our 6-year journey, like I joined when Instabug was just like in year one, and we took 6 years until we became market leaders in bug reporting, crash reporting, and it's just such an amazing journey. And Instabug now is running on over 3 billion devices worldwide. So at some points we didn't have all that traction. One point in time we were trying to deliver or launch a new feature which would then complement the suite of products that were already there. And one thing that we thought of, should the product team own the product roadmap and then the go-to-market strategy, and then once the product is out there and we do the launch and the marketing team supports, it goes back to the product team where they check for activation, they check for whether the people actually use the feature or not, and whether the customers are interested or they completely dismissed it. And the thing is, if you don't have a product marketeer that kind of look at the entire funnel, it would be more of the product team doing the product roadmap, handing it off to the product team, the product marketing team, or the growth team to launch. And this team would only be a launching engine, and they wouldn't really gauge whether the product launches were successful or not. Because more often than not, if you're focused only on acquisition, you will get the message, you will define the personas as you mentioned, and you will get you will launch the product or the feature, whatever it may be, and then for you that's a success. But then weeks later or maybe months later, when you look at traction, it's not just the phase of the funnel where you get awareness or you get people you acquire people through signups, or maybe through them requesting demos to their trials, or maybe wanting to talk to your sales team. But then you need to see out of the X that you got when you launched, or maybe out of when you did a specific channel launch, how many of them actually converted to the next step of the funnel, and then the third, and then the fourth, up until revenue. So it really helps when the product marketeer is in charge, or at least has visibility over the entire funnel. Because you could go and say, like, out of the launches that we did, one of them was we had a very strong product assumption that if we launch product X, and this product isn't really, let's say, very competitive, doesn't have a very competitive space, we're going to acquire all the users that use this product, and they're going to use the other products that we have as well. And this was the product premise. The product team spent months with the tech team on building this product. And as a product marketeer / growth marketeer, I tried working with them without doing any user interviews and without doing market validation. I just assume that the product is spot on. I'll take whatever they build and I'll market the hell out of it. So we did the product launch or product hunt, everything that you could think of. We did a couple of landing pages, we changed the website, we started focusing on channel strategies and tactics and all that. And once the product hit the market, we got a lot of traction, but then we saw that it didn't pick up when we saw the activation metric. And that was because the type of persona that's focused on this market is really very early on for the other products that we're offering. So it's either we have to educate them and wait for them to be at a point where they're ready to use the product, or we should have focused on another persona that complements our product offering better. And that was a mistake that we learned the hard way after looking at data without validating early on if this persona makes sense for this product feature.
It's a great example of how a launch can go wrong if you don't understand the persona and your positioning and do those. There's, the hard work of user interviews at the start. I'd love to hear an example. I know we're getting close to time, Yasmine, but I'd love to hear an example from you of when a product launch can go right based on all of this work you've done. Do you have an example at Instabug of a launch that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, so it has to be Instabug for product manager. It's still #1 on the product hunt. And let me go through how it worked out. So basically, Instabug's promise was that it will empower mobile teams to build better apps through streamlining user feedback and aggregating all performance related insights and analytics that would tell you where the app is glitching, or if there's a problem that the team missed. And we were focused on developers and beta managers more than we were focused on the product manager. So our personas that we were focused on was the early on ones I told you, the developers. We were building everything for developers. We were dev first. We need to make sure that they have all the stack, the tools and the stack that they need to make their lives better. And once we studied the market and we saw that a lot of product managers who are actually working in SaaS products or tech products, they are the ones who actually gauge whether the application, especially for apps, they are the ones who have metrics related to the app health, app quality, and also the pain points that they always have is that they don't, as a product manager, they don't necessarily have the tech experience that would tell them what's going on with the app and whether the app is good in user experience and the glitches I just mentioned and all that. So it was pretty interesting for us to do a market scoping and market analysis on the product managers. And we saw that there is a possible viability for us to build some features and products that would suit the product managers to make sure that their lives are better, maybe build some other features like user surveys so that the product managers could send in-app surveys whenever a user does a specific event, and it helps them collect data. So once we decided that we want to build something for the product managers, we did tons of interviews for existing companies that we had the developers as the users, but not the product managers. And we built all the different assumptions that we could for the product managers. And we decided based on the sample size that we had and the competitive landscape as well, which is something I've delved into today, is to see if you have a potential in this market. Are you doing it in a different way? Are other people leaders in the market, but then they have issues in some aspects, maybe the experience, maybe the support, maybe whatever it may be, or maybe the pricing, and you're going to leverage this in your product offering. Once we had this in mind, the product team got on the ground and they started building the features. And on the growth and the product marketing team, we started actually building pain point based as opposed to that, hey, this is what our product does for you. It was mostly you as a product manager have a problem in 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the benefits that could help you make life better by 1, 2, 3. This is our product. I'm not going to force the product on you. It's the latter. We are going to tell you how you could fix these problems through the product offering that you have. Yeah, and we started building a launch plan where we're going to launch for which product managers on, because initially we thought that developers were on social media platforms like Reddit, Quora, Stack Overflow, but then product managers were on Slack channels, for instance. They were on other channels, LinkedIn. We started launch to see. Once we did it, we got a lot of traction, but the success wasn't in the traction. The success was in actually making the visitors or the traction that we got into actual customers. And this was in coordination with the product team. We found out that there are certain features that weren't really so obvious on the dashboard, so you needed to do a lot of onboarding. So we started adding on and on. The more we had a collaborative effort between us and the product management team. And I think this was one of the successful ones that we had during during my tenure at Instabug.
It's a great story, and #1 on Product Hunt is, that's an achievement and a half that I'm sure lots of product marketers or growth marketers would be chuffed to have.
It doesn't come easily. Yeah.
It does not come easily.
Yeah.
No. Hey Yasmine, I know we're close on time, and probably our video editors at the PMA are going to be shouting at us for going over, but I want to do one very quick, could be a 20-second answer, I don't know, whatever you want to give. But you have gone in an incredible career trajectory that many probably people listening to this will want to go on, starting in a social media specialist role, moving into a product marketing role. What is the one thing you would recommend somebody who's looking to get into product marketing does? It could be to read a book, could be to join a course, could be to, I don't know, whatever it is, but what's the one thing you'd recommend they do?
in 20 minutes, in 20 seconds, like I could go on for 20 minutes, but yeah,
I know, that's why I'm forcing you.
So yeah, I keep on rambling. So yeah, basically, I learned the hard way by just experiencing it through joining a startup it's growing and just figuring things out as you go. But nowadays you have tons of resources, some like attending events like the ones we're in, the product events that are happening all around product marketing. There are also tons of amazing content on websites like Reforge and Product Market Alliance and all that. So basically there are tons of people also that you could ask for mentorship. Someone like you, for instance, you're a senior product marketeer, you know your thing. So if someone wants to start out and they want to see how they could basically start their journey, they could actually have a mentor. And there's a lot of Slack channels as well. So yeah, if you are joining today, then probably you've known about Product Market Alliance. So it makes sense to actually join the Slack group and ask people if they have resources. I have a couple I could share on Slack as well. But yeah, definitely you can only learn by experimenting and being part of and being an actual product marketeer. You will only be an actual product marketeer once you join a company that offers this room for growth, basically.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And
definitely more than 20 seconds.
No, it's a good answer. And Yasmine, I know we're both on the Slack group as part of the Product Marketing Alliance. So anybody listening to us who wants to get in touch with Yasmine, you can do so there, or me if you'd like to chat to me as well. But we're at time, so well, thank you everyone for listening. I've really enjoyed chatting with you, Yasmine. So thanks so much for taking 30 minutes to talk through your career and all these great insights into how you've learned to grow a company like Instabug in both a product marketing and growth marketing role. So thanks so much. See you soon, Yasmine.
Thank you. Pleasure. See you. Thanks so much for having me. Thank you guys and good luck. See you.
Bye.
Welcome to Product Marketing Rendezvous. We're preparing to unleash yet another exciting presentation that's sure to set your pulse racing. But first, we want to thank you and our ensemble of speakers and participants for helping us bring this pioneering event to life. Without you, it'd be fantasy, a mere pipe dream. And remember, have your questions at the ready, because the speakers will be answering your questions and offering tailored support after their presentations. Leave your question in the comments below and get awesome advice from an expert in the field. It's really that simple. Let's resume the rendezvous.
I feel excited and very happy to be here to share my experience in product marketing, product management, and the customer experience. Also, I feel grateful to Product Marketing Management Alliance for giving me this fantastic opportunity to be in front of you to speak about this subject. So in this small session, we are going to discuss about a process for customer engagement in B2B industry or B2B market. So I will share my slides here. Okay. So to bring everybody on same page on B2B, I'll start with the difference between B2B versus B2C, business to customer. So there are characteristics which make these two kind of business different. One is length of sales process. In B2B sales process, it can take from 2 weeks to 2 years, even more. But in B2B, B2C, it is very impulsive. You see a product, you like it, you buy it. Okay. So, and the messaging in B2C is very emotional kind of messaging, but in B2B, it is very fact-based. And when you see the B2C product website, it is kind of glassy, jazzy, glitzy kind of website. But in B2B, it is very much content-focused websites. Gives a lot of information about your products, technology, and features of the product, and how it is going to work. The other thing is the complexity of the sales process. In B2B, it is very in-depth relationship building is required to win the order. This relationship building is required, then only you can understand the customers, customer understand your product and you as a person. And in B2B, there will be a lot of decision makers will be there. In B2C, it will be one person or maximum family decides. But in B2B, the engineering team will have a say, procurement team, the senior management, the operation team, the maintenance team, the end user. So everybody play a vital role in deciding which solution they are going to buy. And the procurement decisions are depends on various parameters. One is purchasing model. It could be like customer will be going with technically superior product. Some customers will be going with very low cost solutions, and some customers, very big customers, prefer technically also superior and the price wise also economical. The other thing is the situational factors decides. Say for example, if the customer is very urgency is there, then he's not going to have a multiple rounds of negotiation or multiple rounds of discussion, or he's not going to call so many competitors and negotiate with everybody. But if he has enough time, he will definitely do that. And it also depends on what the size of the business we are talking about. Is a 1 million or 100K or 200K. So that is also decides the procurement process. It also depends company size and the location, whether you are in metro or in upcountry, or you are in a price sensitive market. So all these parameters decide the procurement decision. In B2B itself, there are different types of business, different types of B2B business. It could be small equipment supply, consumable, commoditized product, service contract, large project, end-to-end solution, or high value deals, and the list goes on. Why we are talking about here the type of business and some of the type I highlighted in a different color, because we are going to talk specifically in that yellow colored niche segment, because the same umbrella process cannot be suitable for all kind of B2B business. So we need to choose a niche and deal with that. So why this process is required? If you don't go through a proper process of engaging customer and formulating the strategy, we will end up in a very low probability of winning. And even if we win, we will be winning with a very low profitability. To avoid this, we need to have a process like this. So the process starts with brand awareness, then understanding the customer, then strategize, implementing the strategy, gaining the confidence, and after that, post-sales engagement. The brand awareness, this is stage 0. We do not have any leads. We don't know the customer. In that case, what we can do is segment the market and do the brand positioning. The brand positioning could be, you can position your company brand, you can position your product brand, depends on depends on what is your brand visibility. If you are very strong brand in this segment, probably you need to position your product. The customers may be knowing your brand, but they may not be knowing your complete product portfolio. In that case, you need to position, or you need to do some branding about your product. You also need to communicate your strength and your capability as a company to execute such kind of projects. How do we do this? It could be email marketing, it could be social media marketing, or offline events, product tech shows and webinars. There are different ways you can create a brand awareness to the customer. The next step is understanding the customer. This is the most important step in entire process. This is stage one. We have lead received. We understand very high level kind of things. Okay, this customer needs solution, but we don't know whether customer have a budget. We really don't know what is exactly the requirement. We just know that, okay, customer has some requirement and they have approached you. So then you get into the customer, understand the customer persona, what are their pain areas, who are the stakeholders, what is their budget, what is their scope of work, who are their end customer, what could be, anticipated customer requirement, what will be the significance of your contribution in overall customer project. So we need to understand the customer in detail, collect as much as information about the customer and their requirement, and this will help you to formulate the strategy. So we are at stage two, where we know the customer requirement at 30,000 feet level. So with that, we need to formulate two strategies. The first one is engagement strategy. So how we are going to engage with this customer depends on his preference, his purchase process. So first is bringing customer to your website and provide many content about the product advantage, unique selling points, enough information for him to decide which product you want to buy, which is the core product going to fit for his application. And you keep connecting to him social media and keep on refreshing his mind with unique selling points of your core product. And in the engagement strategy, the most important thing is the timing of the messaging. The timing of the messaging, what I mean to say, suppose you are in the early stage of customer's project, probably you will be giving the entire product portfolio through EDMs and show what is the capability. But if once you move to the final stage, you know which product exactly going to fit for the customer requirement, then your messaging will be very specific and focused on that core product which you are going to position or which you are positioning to this customer. So the timing is very important. It's depends on the customer's procurement stage, also in your system, which stage this lead is. Whether it's a qualifying stage or proposing stage or a negotiation stage. So the messaging has to be different, depends on which stage the project is. Then comes to the winning strategy. What is your strength, which will help you to win this project? What strength do you want to position to the customer? Who are our competitors what product they are going to position, what game they are going to play. Are they going to play a price game, or they are going to play a technical competence? See, another thing is customers in this digital era, even though you talk about your strength only, they pretty much know what are your weakness also. So prepare for some tough questions from the customers about your weak area. With all this information, we decide on how we are going to position our solution or our product to the customer so that you have a competitive advantage. So the entire thing which we are talking about is the engage early, set the requirement, and make you yourself as first choice for this customer. So the next stage is the gaining confidence. You may be talking a lot about your strength, your product features, unique selling points, but it's not necessary that customer has a confidence on you. Especially in the case of very high value projects or high value deals, they are not going to give a $1 million order to you just because you are talking about your strength. So the gaining confidence is very much important to win the large deals. So the crux of the matter is we need to engage deeply with customers. Once you know the high level requirement, once you start a concept design, engage customer, talk about how we are going to design and how it is requirements are going to get addressed, take his feedback, incorporate in concept design, then make some kind of minimum viable product, MVP, and do a proof of concept at customer site. So the seeing is believing. Customer sees that, okay, he or his requirements are getting implemented, or he sees that how it is going to get implemented, he'll feel more confident on your solution. On top of that, you give some proven track records of similar solution or similar application implemented in various other customer sites, and you can connect this customer to that customer and help him to get the feedback on how you executed this project. So he's all clear about how it is going to work out. The another thing is he may like your solution, you're confident about your solution product, but again, another fear will be there in his mind that how my project is going to get executed. So for that, you have to discuss execution methodology also before you are getting this order. How you are going to execute, what are the schedule, how the project organization going to be, what is your process, resources, who is the single point contact or project manager for your project. So when you talk in depth about the execution methodology, he will be confident on, okay, these people are serious and he is going to execute it. Okay. Then comes to post-sales engagement. One major issue we see is during the sales stage, sales team or marketing team will give a lot of commitment to the customer, promises to the customer, but all this commitment and promises are not conveyed to the execution and sales team. So where we see a big gap, customers see a big gap. So, and he will be annoyed that, okay, or sometimes he will feel cheated that, okay, this team has promised so many things, and when it comes to execution, nothing is there. So it is very important to do a proper handover of the project to the execution and service team so that they are aware of what we have promised during the sales stage. And give a regular update on the progress of your execution. so that he is not in darkness, and he knows very well that what is going on these projects, what are the risks they are facing. Probably he will be able to help you also to mitigate those risks. And also give a single point contact for the execution, so that he doesn't need to run pillar to post to get the things done. So he need to contact or talk to a single person, and he internally resolve the issues of the customers, and keep on giving the product updates through EDMs and new product development, so that customer feel that he is dealing with a very good brand who invest a lot in technology and product upgrades. The another point which we have to discuss is metrics. Yes, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And all the processes, whether the execution process, sales process, each need to keep on improving, depends on the feedback. So in the large project, even though you engage early, you have the best solution, it doesn't need, or it doesn't give you the order. Sometimes customer may like your solution, but he doesn't have a budget. In that case, what maximum he can do is he can give a first chance of refusal. Okay, guys, I like the project, I like the product, your solution, but my budget is only this much. If you can work out something and fit into my budget, you take the order. Or otherwise, I have to give to the next competitor. So the first chance of refusal is a very important factor we need to measure. But how many cases we are getting this, that tells you how your process is working. And also obviously very common metrics like what the business we are getting, what's the share of wallet, how many, what is the frequency of purchase, repeat business, all those things are matters. With this, I want to conclude with a simple sentence. Understand the pain, sell a solution, be a partner to the customer to achieve his implementation or his project or his targets and goals, and be there for his support. Thank you very much. I'm really grateful to you for your time. Thank you.
Welcome back to Product Marketing Rendezvous. Having a great time so far? We can't say we're surprised. After all, it's an event quite like no other. The good news, we've plenty more magic up our sleeves that's guaranteed to blow you and your fellow PMMs off your feet. But before we serve up another slice of product marketing prowess, we want to take a moment to thank everyone who's played a part in making this event possible. Speakers, presenters, and of course you, the product marketing community. Remember, you can engage with speakers and their sessions by posting your question in the comments section or reaching them in our Slack community. Now sit back and above all, enjoy.
Hi everyone, my name is Priscilla Tenggara and I'm a product marketing manager at Sellics, an Amazon growth software based in Berlin. Thank you so much for joining me for my presentation at Product Marketing Rendezvous. Today, I'll be sharing communication and project management techniques you can use to navigate through the age of remote work, especially if you're onboarding into a new product marketing role remotely, something I had done 6 months ago. Whether it's preparing for a product launch or negotiating your priorities for the roadmap, the presentation aims to refine your approach for building relationships, influencing cross-functionally, and leading virtually. Let's get started. So a little bit about myself. I'm currently a product marketer based in Berlin. I'd love to hear where everyone else is tuning in from. I've been living here for the past 2.5 years before moving from California. And at Sellics, I focus on go-to-market strategies, product positioning, and cross-functional collaborations across our teams in North America and Europe. In addition to focusing on product, my background lies heavily in B2B SaaS marketing strategies, as well as e-commerce, with my skill sets in advertising and also a full suite of digital marketing strategies. So what brings me here today is my own experiences. I had challenges, wins, and so on from onboarding into a remote product marketing role 6 months prior to this presentation. And my goal for this presentation is to not only share action items for your onboarding, but also to make the transition as smooth and as advantageous and as intentional as possible, especially within your first 30, 60, 90 days. Before we get started, let's do a quick exercise. Everyone get a piece of paper or open your notes app and think about how you've prepared your previous first days, whether it's for a new role, a new company. So what did you do to prepare for the role before your first day? And how did you approach your first 30, 60, 90 days? I'll take a few seconds for you guys to think about it. All right, so think about how this preparation or lack of affected your current work. And keep these thoughts in mind as you go through the presentation and for us to compare whether or not our notes align, new learnings you get from the presentation, or maybe even ways for you to approach your next first job, especially if it's done remotely. All right, let's get started. Starting with preparing before your first day. Analyzing from the outside in. So what does this mean? Before onboarding, this is one of the best times to research into the industry and look through competitors. During this time, you have the advantage of not being biased by the company since you're not part of the brand or product yet. Take this time to look through the product, the business, especially as an outsider. Jot down missed opportunities and keep these thoughts in mind as you meet people in the company throughout your onboarding. Now, I'm not just going to keep it vague. Let's break it down into action items. So I've broken down the action items into 2 buckets. 1, understanding how the company communicate themselves from the inside. So looking through which channels they communicate through, the messaging, the positioning, their tone. Easy ways to get started include subscribing through their company newsletters, looking through their social media, looking through their performance and their performance marketing and social media ads, and really seeing how their social presence or online presence, whether it's through a blog article or whatever channel it is, and how that's communicated in terms of their product and also their brands. This is a really great place to start when you want to identify their channel mix, their messaging, their positioning strategies, and a great time to look for strengths and potential opportunities when you're entering into the product marketing role. Second, understand how the product or the company is perceived from the outside. So how they stand in the market compared to the competitors, where they stand in terms of customer reviews, and really jot down your own notes. And as you read through the outside perception, stay up to date with the company and the competitors' latest moves. So doing so would allow you to track market movements and where the current brand sits in the company. And action items for this includes identifying the top competitors and comparing. Read about company news and the competitors, look through Google News, look through TechCrunch, whatever media vehicle that you find fitting. And lastly, read through the customer perception about the product, whether it's through app reviews, whether it's through blog articles, influencers, essentially depending on the industry you're in. For me, it's B2B. Trustpilot, G2 have been really great ways to see where our software stands in the market and the feedback received from users or trialers. Moving into your first 30 days. So this is onboarding, relationship building, and so on. What can you expect there? So within the key themes of the first 30 days, the biggest focus here is to really build relationships before you need them. You only have one chance to make a great first impression, so make sure you build those foundations right. And as a product marketer, the success of your work really depends on the stakeholders around you. It's really important to set the foundations and build these crucial relationships before you need them, especially in the future. Understand what's expected of product marketing. Understand past pain points and also how their work impacts your role in the future. During this time, it's really important to be a sponge and ask as many questions as possible. And let's move on how you can get started and make use out of this time. During onboarding, you'll get the opportunity to meet various leads and learn from others. Take advantage of this time to really understand how they think. Follow up with session leaders, ask questions to understand how these teams impact your role and the company roadmap. Secondly, get to know your managers and stakeholders. I can't emphasize how important this is, especially making the effort to set on the right foot while working remotely. People are more likely to make time for you if they know you, not just as a product marketer, but who you are as a person. And try to really build these personal bonds during that first month. Understand your manager's management style, share how you work and your working style. This is very important, especially to set the tone right. And while doing so remotely, it's really easy to, lose communication through the remote aspect of working just alone. So really get to know them as a person and really understand how they work as a manager and how you could also contribute there. Ask what success means to them. Secondly, be sure to reach out to the stakeholders you'll be working in, whether it's product management, sales, customer success, design, data, so on. Really understand their expectations of product marketing and the pain points you can help with to ensure further alignment in the future. Lastly, you have your colleagues, maybe it's product management outside of your own scope, or maybe it's other marketing team members that you don't work with on a day-to-day. Really take the time to build friendships with these group. It's really important that they know you, and beyond that, these friendships, especially the ones that don't affect your line of work, are the go-to people you can talk about, whether you have silly questions on the product or where things are located. These are the group of friends or colleagues that you can really seek help from without really affecting your manager's perception of you or the other stakeholders that are important during your day-to-day. Ask frequent questions and seek advice, especially to people who's not affecting your direct line of work. To wrap it up, a few questions you can keep in mind include expectations of your role, how cross-functional teams work, the process, past challenges, alongside suggestions to create better collaboration. So moving into your first 30 to 60 day period. This is the portion where you really get to focus and master the product and market. And I share that with the key themes that I want to include in this slide. The key themes here is that during this time, this is the time you should really, okay, I'm going to delete the beginning part and start over. So the key themes during this time is to really understand the company priorities, its mid to long-term plans, the product, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the market and competitors. Let's dig deeper into what this means. Starting with company strategy. The goal here is to understand the culture around product and how the bigger picture influences your line of work. Read through past OKRs, watch important all hands, understand the company's mid to long-term plans, and really get to know how their priorities will allow you to define specific projects to work on to affect the bigger picture. Next, master the product. Firstly, obviously use it, read through public feedback, as I had mentioned before, and take the initiative to join sales calls and understand how the product is pitched. Also sit into customer success calls, try to get the client feedback and see opportunities that we can get from the outside in to improve the product itself. And be sure you've spoken to product experts during this time. Really understand key points to know so that the knowledge transfer has been made from these product experts to you, the product marketer. During this time, get a feel of how the roadmap items are prioritized and see to what extent product marketing influences it. Moving into competitors, there's so many different ways to track them, but an easy start starts with Google Alerts. Be sure you have keywords, your competitors alongside your own brand under Google Alerts, so you're aware of their every move and understand the position and the market shifts happening throughout the year. Take the time to also analyze their business models, the product offerings, what your competitors have compared to yours, alongside the marketing channels they use and the messaging and positioning they have towards their own brand, especially understanding where you stand compared to theirs. After solidifying your product, market, and company knowledge, let's move on to the fun part. During this time, you get to apply what you've learned, especially within the 60 to 90 days, and eventually launch your campaigns, features, or even products themselves. So let's look into the key themes during this phase. During your 60 to 90 day, the focus is to implement solutions, contribute to product launches, and staying visible. Let's check out these action items. So every company has low-hanging fruits you can pick. Find out what those are and connect the dots with your past learnings. Start filling the gaps within the orgs with new ideas, and be sure to stay open-minded and run them through feedback from your team or your manager. Test these ideas and iterate them. During this time, you should already start rolling out new features or product launches. Doing so remotely can be very daunting, especially when you're so new and it's important to get to know the people and their working styles. But during this time, it's really crucial to build visibility and credibility so that you can get buy-in from your stakeholders. Make sure you work more efficiently by implementing strategies that you've already succeeded in from past roles. Lastly, since you've already onboarded, okay, cut this part. Lastly, since you've onboarded remotely, the chances are most people have never met you. It's important to really contribute into relationship building. And by remaining visible, a few ways you can do this is through participating in company culture events and also finding your advocates. Really get to know the key people that can be voices for you and vouch for you, especially when you're not in the room. Additionally, keep track of your performance to document your growth in the company. So I know it's been a lot of content, and let's take the time to digest it and also apply that into real life examples. And what did I do for my first 90 days? Well, a lot of learning, and some of the highlights also include new solutions I've implemented at Sellics. Firstly, filling an important gap in the team workflow by building an official product management and product marketing relationship through bi-weekly syncs, customer journey groups, and roadmap discussions. I've also continued to stay visible beyond onboarding by involving myself in company-wide events such as Sellics Talks, where I shared a little bit more about a topic that I'm familiar with for a company just to get to know. And also picking low-hanging fruits that will increase your knowledge and efficiency. This is really important, especially during this time. During my time at Sellics, I noticed there's a few things and missing pieces I could fill in, whether it's creating new dashboards that combine product and also brand campaigns and understanding its results. That was able to increase a lot of insights and efficiency during product campaigns we were running. So that was just an example on how I picked a low-hanging fruit. I also restructured some of the brief templates so that the marketing team can adopt them and have a more structured way of communicating and also finishing their projects. Lastly, and the most important part is launching products during this time. I was able to increase user adoptions from our main suite of products while also contributing to our overarching goal of relaunching a few of our modules such as SEO and also reviews management. As we're concluding the final portion of the presentation, let's recap. Before the job, do your due diligence and research what's communicated through the company and about the company. A lot of things happen in the first 30 days. Don't get overwhelmed. Invest all your energy in relationships and build strong ones, especially in the first month. In your second month, be sure to know the product, the market, and your company strategy inside out. By month 3, apply your learnings, take action, test new ideas, and get feedback from your most relevant stakeholders. Before I send you off, let's continue to the momentum by building habits to remain visible, communicate well, and also, okay, I'm going to start over during this section. Before I send you off, let's continue the momentum by building good habits to remain visible and communicating well, even if your coworkers have still not met you. If you look at these bullets, the common verb and adjective is to share and be proactive. You'll only be visible if you make an effort to be seen. So make that effort. And a lot of the times, this will really create lasting impressions. This goes into your communication, whether it's being very responsive over email or Slack, or updating your stakeholders as frequent as possible. This also trickles into being vocal about your wins, especially when you're onboarding remotely. A lot of times people might not be sure of what you're working on or the impact you're having towards the company. So be sure you're really communicating this. And I know onboarding has its own set of remote challenges, but if you really think about these habits and continue being transparent and sharing your knowledge quite often, I think these are quick wins you can have so that you're able to create a lasting impression as a product marketer within your role. So thank you so much for tuning into my presentation. If you have any questions or feedback, especially comparing to the notes that you had from the beginning, please reach out, tweet me at the following links below, or follow me on Clubhouse. I know that's been the new raging app these days, or add me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear how you've approached your product marketing role, especially for those who have onboarded remotely. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the event. See ya.
Welcome, bienvenue, g'day, ni hao, hola. Wherever you are joining us from today, we want to say a huge welcome to our global community. We hope you are enjoying Product Marketing Rendezvous. And a special thank you to all our speakers and participants who together form our spectacular international lineup. Their sessions are bursting with insights to help the product marketing community level up. And remember, have your questions at the ready because the speakers will be answering your questions and offering tailored support after their presentations. Leave your question in the comments below and get awesome advice from an expert in the field. What's not to love about that? So now let's resume the rendezvous.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thanks for saving the time in your day to come and watch us. Really happy to be part of the Product Marketing Rendezvous. I'd like to first thank Product Marketing Alliance for the invite. Special thanks to Rose. Super sweet. Thanks for the invite. And I was invited here today to tell you a little bit about our experience in the company that I'm currently working for. And I'm going to tell you a bit about this example that we are executing as we speak. So the title of the presentation is Product and Customer Behavior, Understanding Customers Who Are Crazy About Your Products. I am Jonathan America. I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager at TomTom, but let me, to begin with, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I started as my bachelor is I'm a geographer, and right before the university and the masters, I already started working with digital mapping and location technology. I've worked for multiple corporations, multinational companies, but always related to location technology, and that's how I got to being a product manager and later on a product marketing. And I've been working with products basically my whole career. So right after the university, first work until today, I've always been involved with product. From the creation, in my case, digital mapping, creation of the maps, and then go into a more of a manager position, dealing with developers and data scientists, but always related with product. While I was from one company to another, there was a little bit of a gap, and I think it's important to say that I took a sabbatical in between companies, and I traveled the world for a while, a little bit more than a year, where I visited more than 30 plus countries. And the reason I'm saying that is that when I came back to my corporate life, to working for these companies, I came back as a whole different person, which I think contributed a lot for this position that I am today, working with products. Having said that, after talking a bit about myself, and I want to tell this experience, I have to tell you the company that I work for. Otherwise, it's too much out of context. So I work for this company called TomTom. For some people might be a new name, but the reality is that TomTom has been around for 29 years. Of course, founded in 1991, and back then, one of the first breakthrough was the GPS device, the portable navigation device. That was a big disruption. TomTom was really, really big back then. But then, as we all know, around 2007, 2008, another disruption in the market, I guess, not only for TomTom, but for everybody. The iPhone, the mobile navigation was everywhere. And TomTom had to reinvent itself, right? And so coming from a 100% consumer hardware company, now transitioning to a full B2B and software and service company. And that's very important for the whole speech that we're going to have now. So coming from the hardware, from the devices, consumer company, now TomTom is fully B2B software and data company. So the main products that TomTom work today, it's all around location technology. So nowadays, if you have a phone, if you want to order a food, if you want to check in somewhere, if you want to meet people, it's all based on location. It's where you are, related to that area, or you're having something delivery. So it's everything basically is has location technology behind it. So TomTom nowadays, the main products and features, they are around building highly accurate maps, navigation software, and also traffic information and services. So the real-time information on how traffic is doing, where I can charge my EV car, and all related to navigation. So estimated time of arrival, when am I going to get to my destination based on the current traffic conditions and so on. So that was a transition that TomTom had to go through the years. And nowadays fully transitioned B2B software and data company. And just to give you an example of some of our products, this slide gives you a good overview. So ranging from maps, and now we're talking about digital maps as a database or on your phone with the visualization, going to navigation software. Many of our customers are automotive companies. All of them works with TomTom, but also traffic and travel information for OEMs, for automotive, but also for enterprise business, for government business. And more recently, TomTom has been investing a lot in innovation products, and one of the main products for TomTom is automated driving, right? So the cars that autonomously drive around the road and the path towards this autonomous driving. So nowadays you can already buy cars that has lane assist and speed assist, brake assist, and all of this powered by a high definition map. So this is the part of innovation that TomTom has been heavily investing. And why am I saying this? It's because when you're talking about customer behavior and product usage, it's very important to say that in my experience, and I think many others, we're talking, at least in my universe, we're talking about the B2B context, which I think is much more difficult when you're working with directly with the end user, or if you have a website, or if you have an app that you can get the feedback directly from the end user. In a B2B context, it's much more difficult, right? So how to understand better your customers and products within this B2B context, or in other words, within this B2B context, how to understand product usage, how your users are using your product, so user behavior. And then at the end, once you know how they use your product, fine-tune the positioning in order to bring more customers that like to use your products. What I'm saying here is nothing new. It's nothing new, and I have to give credit to what we've been experimenting at TomTom. So basically, all I'm saying here is a mix of two awesome books. So the first one is The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, and the other one is Obviously Awesome by April Dunford. I'm pretty sure you guys know these two. Really huge success. So what I'm trying to do here is a combination of these two books, one in a pre-phase where you need to understand better your customers. Who are your customers? The one that really like and heavily use your product, and then using this information to create your positioning and your messaging strategy. To be even more specific, I'm bringing together chapter 4 of the part 1 called Experiment from the Lean Startup, and I'm mashing it up, putting together with the section number 2, step 1, understand the customers who love your product, which is basically the inspiration to do this this presentation. So if I have to describe this product, these 2 books, sorry, in a nutshell, it would be something a little bit like this, right? So Eric talks about, in that specific chapter, he talks about how to build, measure, and learn from your product. So taking this specific, the learn aspect of this cycle, it's very interesting because he talks about instead of asking for feedback, and this is very, very important, is to grab feedback. How? By monitoring the data usage of your products and features and services. So you have to be able to monitor the data usage, how your customers use your products. Because when you ask for feedback, probably you guys, everybody has been through this situation, like when you're talking to a customer or a prospect and you're asking for feedback, there's this whole situation where we're diplomatic, we want to give feedback, but there's a lot going on, human interaction, emotional skills, and so on. So that's why it's very important that instead of asking for feedback, it's really, really grabbing feedback and getting the real usage of your real customers in a production environment, so you learn more about your customers. And doing this exercise, you can identify your top customers and your heavy users. And this will be key in order to apply the second phase here, which is going to April Dunford's book. So first, we learn from the product usage. Who are your customers? Who are the top ones? How they use you? Why they like you so much? And then you apply this information onto your positioning strategy. So here you see a waterfall example from April. This is her design. So, and if you see, there's a step to it, but if you go to number 4, and you can apply it throughout the whole process, like identify your unique attributes, your value, but it's specific to step number 4, where customers that care, who cares a lot about the value of your product, this has a perfect link. So on the left-hand side, we just learned who are your customers, how they use it, and now you can use this valuable information to actually come up with the reasons why they're so satisfied with your products, why do they like you, and then doing this exercise, you're able to identify the unique value that you are providing to these top customers. And then you can fine tune in order to find similar customers. So you can fine tune your positioning. You're going to be talking to the right audience. So customers that are similar to your top customers, and understanding how to approach different segments. So this is the inspiration. This is nothing new. We're basically applying these 2 books, one heavily focused on product management, how to grab feedback instead of asking, use the data, use the product usage to understand your customers, and identify, very important, identify your top customers, and then using this information in a very nice positioning exercise. In order to get out of this theory and tell you our real example, how we did this in TomTom, again, a full B2B company. And TomTom has multiple products, right? Products that are only data sets that are inside the vehicle, inside of the car, but we have a lot of APIs that can be used. And in order to do this exercise, what we did was, let's use the APIs to start monitoring customers, because there is a more direct interaction between the end user and TomTom. So in order to do that, we used our APIs that are available in our developer portal. If you guys are curious and want to see what type of products we have, go to developer.tomtom.com and you will see a little bit of the products that we have. And I put here a summary. These are some of the APIs that we have. And even if you're a developer, if you like coding, you can just go there and for free start using it. So we have, it's a location technology company. So we have APIs, for example, to create a map display when you're using a map on your phone, all that's beautiful colors and design, the streets, the building. This is all in the maps APIs. We also have a direction APIs, which is basically how to create routes. So from point A to point B, if I'm going on a car or a motorcycle or walking, or if in the middle of my route, I want to do 3 stops. So all this routing engine, this routing intelligence. We have places which pretty much when you search for a restaurant, for a cinema, or you search for your friend's house, this is all about search. So searching for places and getting information on places like restaurants, what time they're open, and so on. We have the traffic family. The traffic family is really to put on top of the map, to overlay on the map your real-time information on traffic. So those basic colors that you see, the green, yellow, and red, so you know how the traffic situation is going right now. And also you can more accurately calculate the ETA, the time of arrival, based on real-time traffic conditions. And other ones like tracking, which is very important for fleet and logistics industry. You can track all your fleet, know who are performing better, and so on. So we use this set of products to implement what we've been, what I just showed you, like how to track. Let's track these products. Let's track the usage, so we get to understand better our customers, and more importantly, our top customers, the ones that heavily use the products, which really, really like the product. So what we did was we got together with some very clever, intelligent developers and engineers, and we created a dashboard in order to monitor all these APIs, all these products. And this is really, really important. If you want to apply the grab feedback idea, you need to be able to monitor how your products are being used. So this is what we did. We developed this dashboard where I can see, and I put some examples. I'm not saying any customer name or any real usage, it's just examples. So in the map family, you can monitor if people are using more raster tiles versus vector tiles, or if they are using the predefined map styles. Or on the places family, when you're searching, you can see if the customers are using a premium feature that we call extended search or not, and so on. So the routing family, you can understand if people are just using cars or other types of routes. In the traffic family, you can monitor if they are really using the 2 flavors of traffic that we have, which is the traffic flow and the instant. So you can monitor all these little features and options that we created, and you can actually get a real proof from the market, from real customers, if those features are being used or not. So this is also very good for the product managers to know what they have to invest more time on it, or what they can deprecate. So this is very important, not only for product marketing to understand customer behavior, but also for product managers to understand what parts of the products needs to be focused on. So if I take one as an example, I'm not going to talk about the whole thing, but if we take, for example, routes, the routing API, where you can, one of the features, there's multiple features, but one of the features is you can choose the type of your route. So if I'm walking, excuse me, if I'm walking, if I'm on a bike, if I'm on a car, and it's very important for TomTom because fleet and logistics is one of our focus business. So if they are using truck routing and so on. So you start with the higher overarching question. So what is the percentage of customers using the default routing, which is car? So people don't actually change the default, just use car routing. From these people, from people using the routing API, what's the percentage of people using different types of routes? Or no, 99% of my customers only use car. And then you can start focusing and going down the funnel of this analysis. And so you begin from this overarching idea that everybody uses the routing API, and then you go down one level. Who are the top customers using car routing? And then you keep going. So let me see now, who are the top customers using truck routing or bike or pedestrian routing? So after doing this monitoring, the dashboard gives to us easily and quick, who are the top customers for truck in our fleet and logistics business, who are the ones using mainly pedestrian routes. So, and then you start identifying the customers. So for example, and then you get to this concept of champions. Well, who are your champion customers? Who are championing your products? And then you start having answers to, for example, customers that are heavily using your fleet and logistics products, who are using more bike routing. So who are your top TomTom bike customers, which are heavily used for food delivery, something that it's really trend right now. So who are your customers using EV routing? So to identify basically, for example, car sharing, very important segment in the on-demand business. And like I said before, who are your champion customers using pedestrian routes? Very important for last mile and multimodal. So now you have at least a clear picture of which customers are your top ones in each of your products. Going back to the title of the presentation, who are the customers who heavily use each part of your product, or in other words, who are the customers who love your product? Of course, that we try to combine this dashboard, this richness of data in product usage. We try to combine this as well, of course, with some qualitative feedback. So we start identifying the top customers by grabbing feedback, not asking, but by grabbing feedback. And we combine this. And now that I know my top customers, instead of talking to everybody, I can have interviews, personal interviews to top selected customers, those ones that I know that heavily use my product, those ones that I know that love my product and really understand my product. So from the quantitative feedback, grabbing the feedback, now you can combine this with more qualitative feedback and input, talking to customers. And then when you have these two approaches combined together, you can for sure have a better positioning, nail down your positioning, fine tune your message, and so on. One example of qualitative feedback that we have, it's also a dashboard. You can get qualitative feedback not only by interviews and talking to people, but we have a dashboard where we monitor all the feedback that people put in the website. So complaints, hey, there's a chat where people can talk to us and send questions. So we analyze all those questions, like what are the difficulties that users are having, what are the problems, feedback, some critics, some positive, constructive critics. So we combine, so we also grab the qualitative feedback via a dashboard, not only via interview, but we're constantly grabbing and combining these two dashboards, one very product usage and data and consumer behavior usage combined with this qualitative feedback, manual input, and also combined with our interviews and your meetings with customers. And so now you have all the information needed, not all the information, but you have much more, you are much more aware of your top customers to actually write down or fine tune or adapt your positioning. So just to circle back now and close down the presentation, going back to our inspiration to the 2 books that I mentioned, and as a summary of the presentation as well, what we can say is you use this learn, especially the learn chapter, the learn exercise that you're gonna get from the data, from product usage, from creating a dashboard that can monitor how people use your products. And then based on this data, you're gonna identify your top customers, your champions, the ones that really like you and the ones that really understand your product. Combine it with also with qualitative feedback, because now you know the top customers, you know your champion customers. So now you can talk to these guys, understand them better. And once you have all this information, basically you can apply to April Dunford's, this is actually her canvas, her positioning canvas. So you can apply in the various steps of this process. So for example, actually you can apply through the whole process. So if you see here, key unique attributes, by monitoring your customer, you're going to identify what it's the features that are most used or not by different segments, by different markets. This is very important. Enable value plus proof. So how do you identify the value? By identifying those customers that really use your product and talking to them, it becomes clear like what type of value you're bringing to those specific customers. And of course, the last one here, customer segments that care. By analyzing the product, by analyzing how customers use your product, basically you are identifying the customers that care, the champions, the top users, the one that understand your product. So this is what we're trying to do at TomTom. Again, it's a B2B company, basically offering map technology, location technology, a lot of data, a lot of APIs, service company. Of course, if you're working in a consumer or retail or B2C or whatever B2C, it might be different, but I think the idea is valid. So monitoring, grabbing feedback, and then asking for feedback, and then applying that knowledge to your positioning or fine-tuning your positioning and your message. This is what I had today. This was my experience. If you guys have questions, please, my email is here, my LinkedIn is here. More than happy to talk to all of you. Connect with me on LinkedIn, drop me a message, and I'm happy to have a coffee and talk to you guys. That's it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys the next time.
Whether you're sinking your teeth into a PMA event for the first time or have come back for a second bite of the cherry, welcome to Product Marketing Rendezvous. Before we set the ball rolling, we want to say a huge thank you to our speakers, you and everyone who is joining this event from around the world. We are sure you'll enjoy the sessions from our one-of-a-kind international lineup. With expert presentations, specialist talks and deep dive panel sessions on the agenda, suffice it to say, you're in for a treat. And here is some more good news. The insights don't stop here, not by a long shot. Our Slack community is home to dynamic conversations and contributions from thousands upon thousands of fellow product marketers. So if you're not already a member, come and join us today. It won't cost you a penny. If you have questions for the speakers or want to connect with them further, then please ask away in the comments section of the video or catch up with them on the PMA Slack community. But for now, sit back and join the rendezvous.
I've made progress throughout my career from a junior marketer to a senior product marketing manager at a scale-up right now. But there are areas of improvement throughout my skill set. One specific one that stands out for me lately is how can I extract and add value to the relationship between a product marketer, myself, and the different analysts with whom I interface and interact. To address this problem, I set up a session and a chat with one of the founders and one of the analysts of RedMonk. RedMonk is somehow a particular analyst firm compared to the big ones out there and generalist ones such as Gartner, Forrester, and you name it. And I did choose them specifically because they address the developer market and specifically the open source market. And I think that those two audiences are driving the change throughout any industry that may concern. So I think that the lessons and the items that we touch upon throughout our conversation is very valid for the general product marketer analyst relationship, but take this into account. Hope you like this this conversation and the learnings from it. Let me know otherwise, and I'm happy to do it with other analysts and share the knowledge. Hi, my name is Jordi Mon. I'm a product marketer at Tricentis, and I've been working with developer tools and platforms and solutions for many years now. And I want to figure out how to become better at managing my relationship with analysts. I believe analysts are a fundamental part of any market or community. And I think I haven't been able to leverage that as much as I would like in the past. James Governor here has kindly offered his help to talk through several of the main aspects of this disconnect, as we've called it in the title of the session. And I'm grateful that he's done it. After many years in the industry, he's still so kind and allows me to bug him even more. So let me introduce RedMonk first before I introduce even James. They are a niche analysis firm, at least by my standards. While the Gartners, the Forresters, the IDCs of the world cover almost every sector or every market there is out there, RedMonk focuses only on developers. They believe, and I think very rightly so, that developers are the new kingmakers, people that only develop and manage software packages and networks, not only develop and manage software packages and networks, but actually creators of new solutions to existing and even new problems. Effectively creators of new ways of thinking how software should be done and delivered. And consider that software developers in general, that software is increasingly prevalent everywhere. I think the impact of their work is immense. So RedMonk, and in particular James, has a fun and rigorous approach to this sector, which I personally have leveraged and found fun throughout my professional life. So welcome, James. Did I do an accurate description of the disconnect between product marketers and analysts, the slight disconnect if you wish, and what RedMonk does?
Well, that's a very charming description of RedMonk. I think that's pretty much right. I mean, yeah, we basically got a focus that I think historically the analysts have focused on sort of purchasing permission-led behaviors. Increasingly today, with the cloud, with open source, with social coding, the influence role of developers, engineers, practitioners is more significant and important. So that's what we focus on. That's what we help people understand. And I think you're right to say that that's increasingly important. We're seeing enterprises invest more heavily in software development and software delivery and try and become a bit better at it. In terms of the disconnect, you know, I don't think you know, we've necessarily drilled into that yet too much, but I think you're right to identify in asking me to do this, that yes, indeed, in my time in the industry, there's probably, and it varies from firm to firm, but there can be an adversarial relationship between industry analysts and their clients, or at least industry analysts and the people that brief them on the vendor side. And that's very often marketing. So there is somewhat of a disconnect between marketing and industry analysts. And yeah, hopefully we can talk a little bit about how to be more effective in you know, collaborating and working together.
Okay, well, so I'll actually drill down into the specifics later. By the way, if anyone is interested in knowing more about the thesis that I mentioned, that is the spirit of Red Monk and developers being the new kingmakers, they've got a book about it, a complete book, actually two, but one specifically called The New Kingmakers, which you should check, by the way. So can you elaborate a little bit more in that adversarial relationship? And you can point fingers to marketing, obviously, there's no problem with that. What do you think, in particular, the audience that you're interested in, the communities you're interested in, feel like marketing is not doing right, or and you particularly, what is that you don't like about your briefing?
You know, I think some of it is, I don't know, some of it is cultural. You know, I don't know whether it's just a pattern. I mean, if we go back to the origins of the business, you know, Gideon Gartner came out of, you know, mainframe pricing. I think he was the Corey Quinn of his day, but without the jokes. And he was helping clients that were trying to negotiate their mainframe contracts. And right from the word go there, his feeling was, look, we are representing the customer, not the vendor. Our job is to negotiate against the vendor. So that was sort of the beginnings of a cultural feeling that there was a certain adversarial nature to what analysts did. Very clearly, that's on what traditionally in this business we've called the buy side. You're helping the buyer rather than the vendor. Combine that with the fact that for whatever reason, a lot of industry analysts are sort of curmudgeons. It's sort of part of something about looking at all these markets and forming an opinion. It seems to bring a lot of sort of slightly grumpy people. You know, I think maybe I used to be grumpier. I've grown out of it a little bit. But yeah, curmudgeons, people that are willing to challenge and feel that it's their role and their job to challenge. So I think if we have that, we've got, you know, a couple of factors there. We've got the supporting the buyer model. And certainly, you know, at Gartner, they're very much, oh no, you know, we only pay attention to customers. We don't need to listen to vendors. We get our worldview based on the customer. That's their articulation. Now, they don't like to talk about the fact that they make a lot of money from vendors as well, but that's basically their positioning, and it's fair. You know, if I look at the people at Gartner that I know, they're there taking client calls all the time.
I guess then, because I'm guessing that Gartner, the Foresters do consider magic quadrants, hype cycles. I know this is not entirely the work they produce, although I would argue it's 80% of what they focus on. Hype cycles, waves, and so on. They consider that is good for the customers, right? Or following your argument, like they consider that they are doing a good job for the buyers, for their customers, to qualify and distribute vendors across these.
Absolutely, it's their job to help customers make better purchasing decisions and to reduce risk. I mean, Gartner is, in many ways, it's an insurance company. You go to Gartner so that you don't make mistakes in your purchasing. That's a big part of the function that they provide. So they talk to.
No, I was going to say, so that creates the incentive for vendors, for product marketers like us, to be on those charts, and ideally on the top right corner.
Absolutely.
If it's a.
I mean, look, there's no doubt. When we talk to, Redmonk has a lot of vendor clients. We don't mind admitting that. We see our base as developers and practitioners. They're the ones that keep us honest. That's our model. It's not buy side or sell side. It's kind of make side, creators, builders. If we lose them, then we've got nothing. But yeah, we've got a lot of vendors as clients. But when we're working with them, just hang on a second, shortly. Here's the difference, right? Like, there is no doubt that being on a position from Gartner where you're on every RFP just makes your life easier. You can go from a pushing the rock uphill to a fulfillment-based model. So there is a huge advantage to working with these firms, particularly Gartner. Obviously, Forrester have some position in there. Although on the infrastructure side, I see Forrester, they've got some sort of slightly different areas, focus a bit more on marketing. They've got that.
Absolutely.
Folks. If we look at the 451, they do a fair amount vendor side. They've always sold very well to financial clients. So VCs, investment banks, private equity, they do a great job of that. So we've all got these sort of slightly different focuses. But there's no doubt that being well positioned on the quadrant can help your business. That's the bottom line.
No, and I'm not trying to be not only controversial antagonist with you, because I feel that the thesis of Redmonk, again, if it's that the developers are the new king makers, and I think it's very true, not gospel, but completely true. I tend to think as a product marketer that the analysis of Redmonk, although it doesn't produce market magic quadrants and the objects that we just mentioned, does have something interest, right? So what for you would be what is in your experience a positive relationship with the PMMs?
Yeah, I mean, okay, well, there's two different questions. So here's the thing, like, I'm not saying that Redmonk doesn't bring value, because that would be absurd. I'm just saying that these other companies do. A couple of things. Redmonk generally has quite a forward-facing view. So we're looking at the decisions and aspirations and choices made by developers. Quite often they are leading-edge developers. We've got a model where we're spending a lot more time with developers that might be working in SaaS companies or in the major public cloud companies. So there is a forward-facing view. The industry has not yet, we talk about digital transformation. We're 5-10% of the way to moving from our legacy processes and infrastructures. So Redmonk's probably focusing on those 5 or 10%. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in and around what you call legacy technologies in my career, but it would always be with a view to modernization. I mean, if for some customers, sure, they're moving from their 8-10-year-old version of SAP to the 4-year-old version. That feels like a big modernization for them. That's a relevant thing to talk to an analyst about. But, for us, we're really looking at the transformative software delivery approach, organizations that get it. And so the customers, the enterprise customers that we talk to are generally quite forward facing. And certainly the vendors we talk to their mindset is all about how do we work more closely with developers. And one of the things we're seeing break down is the tool sets are becoming more similar. So modern developers that work in enterprises look more like modern developers that work in those other constituencies. And so we're all about understanding that modern approach. And yeah, that's why people come to us. I mean, we just understand anybody that wants to, and here's another big difference. Historically, enterprises didn't think they needed, I mean, the idea that a developer needed, or that an enterprise, sort of a CIO cared about developers, they felt that developers were cogs in wheels, or they were going to outsource it. Developers were people offshore, you know, that were working for Infosys or Tata, or
Yeah.
you know, they weren't thinking about, oh my God, I need to have infrastructure that the best software developers locally will want to work for. But now that's no longer the case, because business challenges are so much bigger. You know, hotels are competing with Airbnb.
Yeah.
Transportation companies are competing with like Uber or whoever it is, or Amazon. So the threat posture is much higher. So everybody wants to be more like a software development company. And so we're a natural person to talk to in that regard.
Exactly.
Because that's what we best understand.
That's why I consider it relevant in the past to battle test my positionings, or the positionings that I've tried to put through with Redmond in particular, because I know that it's future battle tested, sort of like cutting edge. I know that if we agree, or Redmond says that thumbs up a product positioning, I know that potentially in the future, and indeed for people doing modern software development and delivery, it would be like a solid positioning. Which actually takes me to...
We want to help, but we want to help both. We understand the top down is still a big thing. The new Kingmaker thesis isn't saying that developers make every decision. But what they're saying is, there's a lot of them, they can help decide what the platform is. Somebody still, you know, at the end of the day, is probably going to need to pay for that. It's not like every individual developer in a company has their own credit card for their Amazon account. They've probably got a personal Amazon account as well. But bottom up, top down, we're best at those bottom up, grassroots-led, practitioner-led efforts. And I think both have a role to play in understanding patterns of adoption of technology today. But I obviously think that our view is of relevance and importance.
Tactical questions are very specific. You've mentioned it a few minutes ago. What does a good product briefing or service briefing or solution briefing look to you? From a product marketer, by the way, what do you expect them to be very succinctly? What does good look like to you?
Well, obviously they just, you know, we wanted to be on top of the material. We want to be thinking about the customer and the customer's problem and the customer's jobs to be done. Not just to think about it like, oh, we've got some technology to sell, here's some features and functions, but what are people going to do with them, and what problems are we going to solve? Be able to present it concisely. You know, Redmond quite likes technology. We like to see a demo. But not everybody will. Some analysts will be like, what do I need to see a demo for? It depends. And I think one of the things that product marketers need to understand is, let's be specific. Analysts are not a block. We're all different. We want, so for example, you talked about our developer focus. If somebody comes to brief us and they don't know that, then they probably haven't really done their job.
Okay.
You know, they should at least have an idea that we're going to come to the table with an expectation, as I say, around this sort of maybe this developer journey or what it is that makes them more relevant in the way we see the world. Now, if you're talking to Gartner, perhaps you understand, look, you've got, Gartner's very, very specific. So they've got, if you're a product marketer, fit in one of their categories, or you're just never going to be heard. Like, okay, you can, even if you're a client, you can pay Gartner and be a client and still go on a briefing, and the analyst will say, this is not my category, right? You have to understand, and it doesn't matter, they've got these, you know, God love them, but some of their categories, it's their job, they see, to have these quadrants that define then categories. And as a vendor, the best thing you can do is fit what you do and articulate into the categories. They understand it if you want to be having a fruitful conversation. If you go to a Gartner analyst and say, hey, look, we don't really fit into these categories, you're not interesting to them. They're not going to change the categories, right?
So how does...
At Gartner is a very, very difficult thing, and you're just not going to do it. So fit in there. Whereas Red Monk, we're probably more interested in if you come and you're like, well, this is the customer problem we're solving. You know, we don't necessarily fit into the existing categories you'd expect. And that's why we've been sort of associated early with things like observability, where it wasn't just, oh, monitoring, you know, where you might have one analyst covering security incident management and logs, and Splunk and another one covering Dynatrace or whatever the APM vendor is. So observability brought those things together and complicated things, and where the overlaps are and stuff like that. That makes it interesting. Another one would be something like GitOps. This term sort of made up by a friend of mine, Alexis Richardson, which now a lot of enterprises, certainly a lot of web companies, are using as their approach to thinking about, look, everything we do is about source code, so let's use Git as a system of record. Anyway, what happened there is all of these different kinds of tools, suddenly it's like, wait, is this cluster management, or is this GitOps, or is this? So I think RedMonk is much more comfortable with the fluidity.
Okay, I get it.
But for us, the main thing is like understand what it means for the customer, understand what it means technically. Understand what our viewpoint is. In order to not be adversarial, the product marketer should understand what the analyst wants and expects. So it's about spending a bit of time. I'm not saying you need to be like, well, no, you should.
To read.
Know who your audience is, basically.
Do they need to read the new Kingmakers to have a briefing with you? I'm joking. But yeah, you've touched upon like
everybody needs to read the new Kingmakers, Geordie.
I know. I sent a copy. I sent a copy to my mother.
It's a quick read. It's like you can get it as a Kindle book. It'll take you like 45 minutes, an hour. I mean, it's been interesting to me. I mean, we've seen senior architects or at Barclays give that to all of their colleagues as something to read. It's a useful way of thinking about the world.
And yet my favorite is this one. I think it's better.
Software Paradox is also a good one. Everyone tells you to be a software company, and yet software is
exactly
what you want to be is a services company providing useful services for the customer.
Last question. I think we're running out of time probably. What does a good inquiry look to you? I mean, I guess probably same elements apply here, knowing what RedMonk is about, knowing what Gartner is about in case you ping them. But are there any elements that you would expect from an inquiry from a product marketer who's probably interested in market slicing, markets?
Look, okay, so there's a few things. A, analysts don't know everything. We like to come across like we do, but we don't. So if you know what your question is, let us know before time, and even think, look, if you're doing an inquiry, add some extra time to the inquiry so the analyst can spend more time on preparation. Because if you just turn up and expect them to, answer a question off the cuff, I mean, look, RedMonk is extremely good at doing that. I mean, we know a lot. We are all about context. I'm going to provide value to any inquiry question I get, but it really makes sense to, and don't turn up and be like, oh, so did you already look at the PowerPoint we sent? It's like, well, oh, this is an inquiry, a consultation. Did you pay me to do that? Because chances are high that no, I didn't. I'm not going to spend an hour on your deck and then an hour on the phone with you if you're only paying me for an hour. So an inquiry, you should really think about how to get the most out of it. And sometimes it's don't try and nickel and dime an analyst, because you're going to get more value if you want them to do preparation, pay for it. But do understand their market, have some real clarity and ask them questions that they are prepared to answer. And I think that's a good basis for a solid inquiry. I mean, there are things folks do and others don't. I mean, you mentioned like market sizing. For obvious reasons, marketers love that. It's a big part about getting budget and everything else. We don't do that. In fact, there are firms that are specialists. I mean, historically, DataQuest and IDC. I don't want to criticize firms that do that, but I have not seen the industry do a good job of accurately modeling the size of markets and their growth. So, And also that was one of the things why RedMonk even came about. So historically speaking, you know, like how big is the market now? What, you get on the phone and you call every vendor and say, how much have you sold, right? Hopefully you're a publicly traded company, so you're not going to be lying about something like that. But you're basically, hello, how much database licenses have you sold? But in the world of open source, that's just is me. Now, I mean, interestingly enough, I mean, Amazon is not going to tell you, but they know exactly how much of every single thing they've sold. But open source, and this is the world that sort of RedMonk came out of, it made no, I mean, yeah, oh, you know, you're trying to understand, you'd be like, oh, you know, Linux, yeah, we can tell you about Linux market share. It's all Red Hat and SUSE. And where they're going, like, every developer that we're engaging with is using Ubuntu. So, you know, purchasing is just not quite the proxy for adoption it used to be.
Yeah.
And so market sizing, I don't know. I mean, it seems like a lot, you know, quite a lot of voodoo to me. I said I wasn't going to criticize anyone. I probably have. So certainly that's not something that RedMonk is going to help with.
Okay. Okay, well then I don't have more questions. That was very helpful from you, and I hope everyone enjoys it. And you know where to find James. Would you let everyone know where to find you in case they have
I'm
questions?
on the internet. Yeah, I mean, you know, redmonk.com. Check out I mean, that's one thing, our content is free. So we came out of the blogging world, possibly a mistake. So it's mostly, you know, free
no
content.
paywall.
We build services around that. We don't have a paywall. And then I'm on Twitter a lot, at monkchips. Yeah, I'm noisy, but
kind.
But yeah, that's, well, I don't know about that, Jordy, but that's where you find me.
It is true. Thanks so much. See you later, actually. Take
Great.
care.
Thank you very much, Jordy.